Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. You're watching the Mortgage Busters show, and we're all about helping you pay down your mortgage so that you can go into the bank and say, here it is, there's my last payment on my mortgage. I want the title to my property in my hands so that I can put it in my safe and I've got control over my own asset. My name's Greg.
I'm Adrian.
And we've still got the 1,000-day Mortgage Busters Challenge going. Adrian,
yes,
how
it's still
exciting
going.
is the 1,000-day
going.
Mortgage Busters Challenge?
Yes. And
What's going on?
Our audience need to not forget we're putting up the $1,000.
$1,000. We're going to help you pay down your mortgage. We're going to make one of those to the extent of $1,000. If you join the 1,000-day Mortgage Busters Challenge, we're going to pay
$1,000.
$1,000 off your mortgage. Now we've got 100 of these open, 100 registrations open for the first 100 that register and start the program. We will do that for. So we've got an exciting program.
Yes.
And we've got
Elizabeth Jackson, another guru.
Another guru on property.
Property.
It seems to be revolving around property right now. But that's really what you take out a mortgage for, is mainly a property. We've got Elizabeth Jackson from Public Property with us. Elizabeth, welcome to the show.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for having me.
So tell us about yourself and Public Property.
Well, we set up Public Property about 3 months ago, and we've been working on the idea for a number of years. What we've realised, particularly in the Australian market, is people want to be able to find investment property easily, and it's not really that accessible. Money Choice did a survey of 100 buyers, investors, and 50 of them, that was the hardest thing for them, was finding the investment properties. So we have on our website, we've got a massive portal, and we distribute properties from all over Australia from really well-regarded and well-defined developers.
Okay. So what's going on in the Australian market? I mean, I had someone tell me the other day, oh, the market's going to crash. And I'm thinking, well, that's the furthest thing from
But they've been saying that for
volume
20
knowledge.
years that I've known.
Yeah,
It's crashing.
And I said to her, well, you know what? If the market's going to crash, you should be selling your property.
Oh yeah,
Because,
absolutely,
you know, that's
immediately.
the logical thing to do. But what's your view?
Look, we're really busy, and from everyone that I've been talking to, all the industry experts, they're all busy. You know, we're in a really... Investors are buying in July. Most of the loans that were written by Commonwealth Bank, half of them were investors. You know, we've got young people that are living at home with mum and dad that are earning big incomes and don't want to leave home, looking at investment property.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And so they should be.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, I always go back to the plan in Melbourne, and I talk about it a lot because I research everything. And the plan in Melbourne talks about the growth within Victoria, and you know, we've got good days coming here, continuing growth. Now you guys know that when
Can
the
you
government...
say that again, even louder?
Continuing growth.
Great.
So we're going to see our population last year was about 4.4 million. We're going to see an increase in population in the next 30 years to about 7.5 million. We have to come up with 1.6 million dwellings in the next 30 years to accommodate these people.
This is Melbourne, or
this is Victoria. This is Victoria.
Just
Our kids have to
Victoria.
live
They have
somewhere.
to, yeah. But you know, in life, and I say this, and I'm not being glib, we require 2 boxes. One that we live in and one that will go to the earth in. And that's an absolute.
Oh,
and those
God.
are the 2 things that you absolutely require. And we are experts in helping investors find investment properties. Because you know what? With that level of interest, you know, Australia's it.
Yeah,
You know,
sure is.
Europe's been in trouble.
Yep.
We've seen America. I mean, who
Up and
thought
down.
America would get a cold? And
Up and
boy,
down.
haven't they had a big cold.
But it's
We've-
recovery.
Well, yeah, it's slowly but surely it's coming into its own. But you know what? There's no place like Australia on earth.
There isn't. And in a global context, it's young, it's fresh, there's plenty of room, fresh air, clean food, clean water. This is the place to be.
And land. There's land here.
Lots of it.
And good land.
And
Yeah,
great
yeah,
land.
yeah,
You
yeah.
know, the plan in Melbourne, they talked about Melburnians moving into regional Victoria. And they're going to look at in the next 30 years, 2.1 million people wanting that regional lifestyle. And why not?
So don't overlook the country areas.
Don't overlook Ballarat, Bendigo and Geelong. Do not overlook those areas. You know, they've grown organically. They've got older buildings. Ballarat's got some of the best private schools here in Victoria.
Well, Ballarat's fast becoming a suburb of Melbourne
Yeah,
almost.
well,
you know.
that's
yeah.
it. And you know what? For Europeans, an hour and a half, 2 hour commute to work it's not an unusual thing. You know, not at all.
They're used to driving 3-4 hours back home.
Absolutely, that's a
To
regular
go.
day for them. So we're certainly talking a lot about regional Victoria to our clients. And look, a lot of it depends on where they are when it comes to retirement age. So if you're like me and you've got 25, 30 years up your sleeve till retirement, absolutely Ballarat, regional Victoria, Geelong. I'd even say Bacchus Marsh is quite interesting. It's kind of a little sleepy hollow. But look, if your retirement age, if you're, you've only got about 10, 15 years up your sleeve, I'm always saying 10 to 15 Ks within the CBD of Melbourne. So you've got to be smart with your investment allocations as well. You've really got to look at that. But
See, Melbourne, this is my view in terms of the Melbourne sprawl. You've got this particular sprawl that Melbourne has that takes advantage of the land quality and consistency and so forth. And I think, don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure San Francisco in America is like a sister city in that respect. They've got a pretty massive sprawl which they have to try and restrict to take advantage of the current infrastructure. That's why we had the 2030 boundary and so forth here.
Absolutely.
I think all that came from San Francisco and what was happening there.
yeah, what they're trying to do
So-
is set up micro cities
Yeah,
around
yes.
Victoria.
Transit cities, I think they call
Yeah,
them.
transit cities.
So what research do you do then? What's
Well,
in-
we look, so the first thing to do, what a lot of investors, so there's a couple of things we want to say to our investors first. And what's critical in this is if you want to be an investor and you're ready, you have to get a financial health check. And this is why I love you guys so much, because you're all about that.
Correct.
You've got to get in front of someone and you've got to look at your investments like a business. So once you've
Well,
got an
you're
idea.
in the business of accommodation.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So once you've got your financial health check, then you can go ahead and you can start the process of looking for an investment property. But without that, it's redundant. Investors are doing it backwards here in Australia. They go out, they find a property, and then they try and stuff it into their financial situation. And that's the wrong way to do it because that's desperate. We want investors to start thinking about it differently.
I like that. I like the way you just described that because that's really what happens.
Yeah.
They'll pick something that they're emotionally connected to. They like it because they might live there one day, and that's the wrong thing. That's the wrong way to look at an investment. Or there's some emotional reason quite often why they're buying it, and then they have to try and make it fit financially and make it work for them, for growth, in terms of growth and successful, successful
Absolutely.
financial venture.
They're getting it wrong. So it's research, research, research.
All right, on
Right
that
after,
note,
yeah.
let's go to a break. We'll come back and further discuss research and how you select the property.
Great.
Viewers, you're watching the Mortgage Busters show. We've got Elizabeth Jackson from Public Property. What a great story she's got for us. Come back to us after the break and hear what else she's got to say. Welcome back. You're watching the Mortgage Busters show and we're with Elizabeth Jackson from Public Property. Elizabeth, so anyone that's contemplating going into the investment arena with regards to property should definitely have a financial health check
Immediately.
to determine what? To determine what they can borrow? and-
Well, absolutely, but you want to look at what your asset is worth, or
Your home?
Your home.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting. People consider their home an asset, but in actual fact, it's a liability
Correct.
because you're putting money into it.
Correct.
Now, your asset is actually going to be your investment property, but you need to find out where you're at with that, and your payments, and your debts, and everything else, and then look at what you can reasonably afford to borrow. And I use that word, reasonably afford to borrow. I don't want investors going out buying a $700,000 penthouse anywhere because that's ridiculous. You always want to look at exit strategy as an investor too.
But do you have one for sale?
That you mentioned.
Sounds nice.
So you want to do your financial health check first. You want to make sure that whatever you're borrowing is, you're going to be sound. And then from there, then you go to the research. And
Okay.
the research is important.
All right, so research. Is there certain things that you follow every time, that you research every time?
Yeah, so once you've decided that you want to get into the investment market,
And you can afford it?
and you can afford it, and that's important here. You want to go, and this is what I recommend my clients do, go to Google and put a Google alert on real estate and get all the information coming to your cell phone and start looking at what they're saying about different areas in the market. The next thing to do is to go to the government websites. I love Australia, and the great thing about Australia is they have forward planning. They discuss their budgets openly. There are property precinct structure plans in place for all the areas, different areas around Victoria. So you want to go and use that and use those resources.
And so far, that's all freely available.
Yeah, free information. The other thing to do is get the Plan of Melbourne. Get it. Because in the Plan of Melbourne, they start to identify how the city and how Victoria is going to be structured in the next 30 years. You know, I did some research recently for a client on Clayton, and Clayton is the second largest employment hub in Victoria.
Yeah, it's crazy,
Wow.
isn't it?
It's mad.
What about
I
Springvale?
know you can get cheap fruit and veggies there. That's
Yeah,
for sure.
and great coffee. You
Springvale,
know,
up
but
the road.
that's a major employment hub. We've got the university there.
That's right.
They've just announced the opening of the Monash Children's Hospital. We've got some really key things happening in that area. That's an area to keep an eye on, and you get that information from the Plan of Melbourne. It talks about Dandenong, Oakley, Murrumbeena, the train lines, how infrastructure is going to be put in place for future. You know, we're starting to talk to clients about Cranbourne East. Now, Cranbourne East has never really been on the radar, but you know it is now because
You're
they're going
right.
to put in 24 express trains.
Wow.
Wow.
You know,
Gee, you know, that's... And of course, the other thing that clients can do, or viewers can do, is get in touch with the Mortgage Busters show, and we can produce what's called a thumbprint report, which
course.
will tell them what they can afford,
Which
and
is-
so on and so
well,
forth. But
I mean, this is the reason why I love you guys too. You do this, you do it for free, don't you? Is
Very
that-
exactly,
I
yeah,
mean,
yeah.
I just
Yeah, others
think
do
that's
charge.
extraordinary,
Yeah,
and you go
yeah.
to their homes.
exactly, yeah, we
Oh,
do.
wow.
We go to their homes, but
That's incredible.
yeah. So research that covers all the key areas.
It's you can only determine location when you do your research,
Right.
and that's it. You want to look at where future infrastructure is going.
Yeah.
You want to know where the supermarket's going, where the transportation hubs are going to be, where the creche and the schools are. Because remember, if it's house and land, your tenant is going to be a family. So you want to know that they're going to have ease to all of these
And that
access.
family is probably saving for a deposit, to purchase into the same area, because that's where they're establishing their life.
Absolutely, that's
Correct,
it. They don't
yeah.
want to uproot their children and move them to other schools.
What about newer established? Where's your...
Yeah, I
we-
kind of get into trouble with some of the guys in the market about this. See, I'm a Kiwi and we don't pay stamp duty. And I've got a real bug about clients paying more money for a property than they absolutely have to. Look, new is you get your tax depreciation, you get, and that runs as get someone good to do your depreciation schedule. There are real benefits to buying new, and then there's your stamp duty savings.
Tax deductions.
Tax deductions, all of it. I love new. I'm always going to be new. You
Well,
know.
it's
And
actually, but with all the benefits, it's actually cheaper to buy a new property than it is to buy a second-hand property.
Well,
No,
at
absolutely.
least 20,000.
Oh,
Keep going.
absolutely,
It's not- Depends on how much.
I know investors out there in the market that are holding older properties, and there's really no benefit to them. But now it's about land. So they're holding them because of the land value, and that's really great if you're already in that market. But you know, you get in the Plan of Melbourne, you start to look at where these key growth areas are happening. You're a southern, you're a game and a half ahead of everybody else.
That's 20,030, I heard. That
20,000,
30.
yeah,
They're going that far
they're
out.
going that far out. They have to. You look at the population. We're at, I mean, this is Australia. I mean, I'm a Kiwi and I'm from Christchurch. We're getting on bathtubs to come here to Australia.
Yeah, well, most people are globally.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I remember when Berwick used to. I used to know I used
How
to
I
go to
got here.
school with a boy whose dad owned the Berwick pub in there in Berwick.
Wow.
But that's when I was in primary. But that was like the country. It was like
No, it was
it was
kangaroos.
another state.
Yeah.
And now Berwick is just up the road.
Oh my God. And
And in fact, Pakenham used to. That was like
Oh, with all the
just out of
freeway.
sight, out of mind. But
yeah.
now it's
With
like
the
just
freeways,
another
you're all
suburb.
there.
Absolutely. Look, we've got townhouses out in Pakenham. I never thought I would pick up properties out in Pakenham, but they're talking about an airport
It's
out
boomed.
there.
Absolutely
it's boomed.
boomed.
And they're
It's
beautiful
young.
estates.
They're
And
affordable.
Really.
Affordable.
Yeah,
They're
yeah.
affordable, and you can walk everywhere. These
Yeah.
estates weren't just randomly thrown into the space; they were designed for families, and they're
Not
there
like
to
the,
accommodate them.
sorry to cut you off, but
No.
like in the 70s when they had the big southeast boom in the southeast, you know, like Springvale and Dandenong and Clayton and all those areas that you talked about before, they just all they did was build homes on streets. That was it.
No.
It used to
But
be called
now-
country. My parents used to call Dandenong
Yeah,
country.
yeah,
We're
I
going
know,
to
I
the
know.
country.
Yeah. But
And,
now that's going to be a major growth.
It
so
still is. It's
Dandenong,
still going insane.
Frankston, all of them.
But now I just lost my train of thought there for a minute. But what I was going to say is that there was no planning in terms of the estates. But these estates, the new estates going up into these new areas, they've all got open space contribution and
parks.
parks and waterways, and they have to have all this stuff. They won't get through.
Yeah.
And they're beautiful estates, and you'd love to live there.
Yeah, absolutely. That's it. So you can kind of get the best of both. You can get great quality investment properties that are actually supported because most of those houses are owned by owner-occupiers.
Look, Elizabeth, it's been great having you on the show.
Thank
We've
you.
run out of time. We'll have you on again, but of course you'll help our clients find the right investment property.
Absolutely. I love what you guys are doing.
Fantastic.
You betcha.
So stay in touch with our website, Mortgage Busters, our website,
www.tmbshow.com.au.
tmbshow.com.au. Elizabeth Jackson's contact will be there. You can come through us. You can make contact with Elizabeth through us. Stay tuned. After the break, we'll have Stephen Hudson, our finance
Guru.
See you after the break. Viewers, you're watching the Mortgage Busters show. Now, at the start of the show, we did mention our 1,000-day Mortgage Busters challenge.
Yep.
Why wouldn't you take advantage of that? I mean, you're probably sitting there enjoying yourself watching the show, but you may have a mortgage that you know is there, but and you can do things to it to pay it down a lot more quickly, but why not pay it down really at a fast, rapid rate and get that home paid off, and even consider an investment or two, or in whatever, shares, investment, property, whatever, to build up some wealth so you can retire in a comfortable lifestyle that you deserve. We've got Stephen Hudson, our finance guru.
Yes.
What do you think about those words, Steve? I mean,
brilliant words, Greg. When we're dealing with it and working with our clients, we structure their loans to ensure and help them get onto that path of paying down their mortgage. And with the 1,000-day Mortgage Busters challenge, there's no better way to actually implement a financial plan to pay off your mortgage. It's fantastic.
I think you're right. I think there isn't a better way. And why not? It's not hard. It's just a matter of just taking a little bit of action to get yourself started on the path to a really good, healthy financial future.
Absolutely, Greg. And that's the first thing. You've got to have a mortgage to buy a house, unless you're born rich, of course.
Of course.
We all have to have that, and then you can leverage off that to invest in the future. And just going back to what Elizabeth was...
And sorry to cut you
yep.
off there, but you have to leverage. It's impossible for most people to save enough money to retire on.
Oh, that's right. And that's probably a program that we should probably look at doing.
Yeah, you're
is
right.
having a look at, and again, coming back to what Elizabeth said, that the amount that you need to actually retire on these days is a massive amount. And you really need to plan for that. It just doesn't happen by itself. And when it comes to be investor ready, and that's what I refer to when
I like that, investor
ready. I talk about that a fair bit out in the marketplace. There is certain steps of it, and Elizabeth spoke about that. Is looking at your financial snapshot, making sure what you can do, and it's very important from a finance person. That's one of the first things we say to people that they need to do, is find out exactly what they can afford to borrow.
Let me ask you this. Are most people aware of where they're at financially? Do you understand my question?
Yeah, I understand your questions. Some are. Unfortunately, most aren't. And as I think it was a terminology that Elizabeth used before, referring back to, that trying to stuff, they go and buy an investment property and then try to stuff investment property into to their financial position.
Yes.
What they really should be doing is finding out exactly and be investor ready, so you know what you can and you can't do.
Correct.
When you're looking for a property.
Yes.
And structure your finances accordingly.
Yeah.
And there's many ways to cut it. If it doesn't work for you, you can go to one bank and then go to another bank to lend for the investment property.
Yeah.
There's different ways.
Yeah,
and coming back to be investor ready and doing your research, one of the things I think it'd be good to touch on, that when you're looking for your lenders, people go out and buy a property and then think about what lender they can get, where they should be saying, okay, this is the area we're going to be buying in. What lenders, first off, will actually lend us the money in that area? Because in regional areas, there are some restrictions for lenders. they may lend into that area, but if that's going to be an area that you're going to focus on, there might be a capped amount that they'll actually lend to you, right? So it might be $600,000, or in some cases, some lenders won't lend to an out area of, say, Shepparton, more of a regional area.
Well, they all have different policies.
So it's to understand that. And then looking at, say, the inner suburbs where you've got the skyscrapers going up, banks will have limitations by building, not just area, by building. And also square meterage.
Yeah, right.
They look at how much size the actual unit takes up, not including balcony space. And then they'll have a restriction on it. So you could go and buy a property in a building, and let's say it's the NAB that you've financed, and I want to go through to the NAB. You're successful. Tomorrow, I could go and ask for the same unit, same building, same price, same financial, and they'll say no because they have already got enough exposure in that particular building.
Oh, I see.
So
okay.
There's all sorts.
There's a lot there, isn't there?
Oh, absolutely. Then
so I remember at one time there, I don't know if it's still the case, you know, it was very dangerous to buy under 50 square metres.
Yeah.
Is that, were you familiar with that rule?
Yeah.
I got caught with that, actually.
Yeah, after the GFC specifically, they did drop and tighten up a lot on that part of it.
Yeah.
They're loosening a little bit more these days, and then you'll find other lenders who are more non-traditional will go, but the major ones, they still put some restrictions on.
Right.
It comes back down to doing your research, be investor ready to ensure that you've got the right financial product to suit the product that you're going to buy, be it an established home, or if it's going to be off the plan, or if it's going to be a land and construction.
So it's good to obviously get a broker because there's a lot of work in there.
Oh, there's a lot of work involved. You know, it's
not easy.
Yeah, look, and off the top of your head, you can usually pick the right lender straight away for a situation.
See, there's two keys here for me, two key points. Number one is in terms of an investment property, or shares or whatever, but let's stick with an investment property. You're buying that to create wealth.
Yep.
But you're also buying it to pay your own loan down quicker, which is what we're all about.
That's
Just getting rid of that mortgage.
Absolutely.
Your good
Others
mortgage.
are paying it off.
Exactly.
Others are paying it off.
Yeah.
Now, is there a whiteboard coming on?
Yeah,
I can sense it. I can feel it.
Yeah, you can sense it. And look, what I wanted to touch on again, a little bit about doing your research, as far as paying off and creating an investment portfolio to pay off your own. But just a simple thing about stamp duty, for instance. Again, we touched on that with Elizabeth.
Yeah.
I just want to put some numbers around that.
Yeah, we've got 2 minutes to do
2 minutes,
this, yeah.
okay. So I think I've got about a minute and a half's worth of blackboard stuff here. So let's quickly put it up. We're talking
Nice big writing. Yep.
stamp duty on a $400,000 property. Okay. Now, if this was a normal house, established house, so you've already somewhere in Carnegie, or you wouldn't get anything for $400,000.
A unit or something, yeah.
Yeah, unit.
Anything.
So
Bathroom?
half a bathroom maybe. As I refer to it as a PPR, that's principal place of residence. You're paying $16,000 in stamp duty, and as an investor, you're paying 19, right? As a first home buyer, it's slightly less, but we're not going to go into that.
No.
All right. So with a land and construction.
So house and land.
Yeah, house and land. So let's call this 200,000.
The land.
Yeah.
200,000. Yeah.
And that's back as PPR. I hope you can see that. An investor. We've got 637, and as an investor, 707. So apart from the other things that Elizabeth was talking about with, this clear identity on your stamp duties that you can claim on a new house against an established house, we can see here there is $16,000 versus $6,000 in stamp duty. $10,000 worth of savings.
It's huge.
Yeah, 10,000.
Okay, so paying off your mortgage, you're putting that money back into your own house.
Yeah,
you're going
correct.
to accelerate paying off that mortgage.
Yeah. Yeah, I see that clearly. I mean, that's a fairly sizable chunk to think about when you're getting into something like this.
Absolutely.
Steve, we're running out of time.
Oh, good.
Thanks for
Yeah,
that.
no
You've
worries.
highlighted a major
Yeah.
point there. Buy new. It's always better to buy new when you're talking about investment property. It's actually cheaper to buy than it is to buy a second-hand property. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for watching the Mortgage Busters show. From Greg, from Adrian, Stephen and myself, Greg, we'll see you at the same time next week.